Hey everybody, this is Cameron from Obnoxious Anonymous. Once again, here with Mr. Josh Eisenstadt with red curtains behind us and two very interesting looking ledgers here, my friend.
Well, Brother Ben, we've got 2 ledgers and 1 smoked cheese pig. Which one do we burn? It's not going to be my pig.
No.
Yes, these are the props, the Packard Sawmill account ledgers. Let me hold them up a little bit more. You can see the writing in them. There were 2, I swear there were 2, and there are 2. One's real, one's fake. These are the screen use props that we see in multiple episodes. We have them set up like this because if everybody remembers the scene in episode 9 that I just quoted with Ben and Jerry, with the ledger set up like this. Now, should I start off with that story?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so Richard Beamer told me a story about that. And if you notice the way they're set up, the reason they're set up like this in the scene is because the scene, for anybody that's seen the script, it's scripted differently than what we see in the show. They're getting ready to shoot, and also episodes 8 and 9 were shot together, like one long movie, kind of like the way season 3 was shot, because David Lynch directed, the first 2-hour episode, 8, and then the next one, the 1-hour one, 9. They were all shot together. Very similar to what he would do with season 3. So they were doing this, and he looked at the script before they were shooting, and then David looks at the script and he says, "You know what? This is wrong. The scene isn't right. Let's do early lunch. I'm going to rewrite it." So he goes aside, he rewrites it. He hands the script pages to David Patrick Kelly and Richard Beamer and says, "Okay, the new written out page, and says this is going to be the scene." Obviously, they didn't have a lot of time to memorize it, so so David says, "Well, let's just put the lines back here, set the ledgers up like this, and voila." That's why they're set up like that during the scene.
So what you're saying are the script pages were on this side while they were sitting crisscross.
Yes.
And so that if they needed to look at their reminding of the script,
Right.
they could just do so.
Yes, because they just had their new lines literally like 5 minutes before they shot.
So basically, they shot that scene like Saturday Night Live
Kind of.
with like cue cards.
Yeah. Yeah, he wanted to kind of just change. So that was the story that Richard told me, because I remember when I first, I showed him these, and I said, "What do you think?" I said, "You remember these?" He said, "Yeah," and then I kind of set them up like that for me. He's like, "You know why they were like that?" I said, "No, why?" And that was a long time ago, I heard that story, so I thought that was an interesting one, and why not share that?
Absolutely. Well, another thing I want to ask you about is I saw on your DVD shelf you have Candyman 2.
Yes, which I didn't, I think I saw it when it came out, but I've not seen it since. I guess why it's still sealed, I guess.
Yeah. The reason why I bring it up is I popped this in my player back in during the pandemic. I hadn't seen it in a while. And then it dawned on me the two main actresses' names, right, were Annie and Caroline.
Wow. The actresses or the characters?
The characters, I mean.
Wow.
And so that means that Mr. Bill Condon has to be a Twin Peaks
Has
fan.
to be. That's too coincidental.
You do not name your 2 lead actresses Annie and Caroline.
No. No. Well, you did.
Well, that's because
I know, I'm kidding.
But still, Candyman, Pharaoh of the Flesh. There you go. Little Twin Peaks knowledge there for you.
Yeah, definitely definitely a Twin Peaks fan. That's too coincidental.
So this is a little awkward because I'm not used to sitting on the floor, so I'll probably have a leg cramp at some point. But I do want to talk to you about some of the places we went to today. You were kind enough to show me some more locations around here in California. Now, we did not get to everything because it's the weekend, some things are closed, and other things seem like, it'd be better to hit another time. But we did get to hit an area of Twin Peaks locations I've never seen, which is the Malibu Lake.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us about some of the places you took me in, and I will.
Okay. Well, first, the thing about the Malibu Lake location, there were a lot of them. And maybe I'll tell this story about how I first discovered they were there.
Go ahead.
Okay. Clock way back, 1991. I'm a kid, I'm in junior high, and Twin Peaks ended, and I know that they shot a movie, and I'm excited about it. I know Fire Walk With Me was shot, and obviously still upset about the cancellation of Twin Peaks. And I'm at a local fast food place, and I'm in line. This is way before any Twin Peaks festivals. This is 91. I'm a little kid. Nobody in my school watched Twin Peaks. I was way too young probably to be watching it.
They're too busy watching that on 2-0.
Probably. So I'm there, and I'm in line, and there's the person in front of me in line. He turns around, and I realize he's wearing a "Have You Seen This Man Bob" t-shirt. And obviously I'm thinking, Twin Peaks fan. Got to talk to him.
Right.
Finally, somebody else that likes Twin Peaks. So I started talking to him. It turns out he says, yeah, he said I was on the crew. Now, I wish for the life of me I remembered his name, because he told me at the time, but this is 91, I'm a little kid, I just don't know anymore. Mm-hmm. But he did tell me, I remember this. He said, well, I was kind of in the show. I said, really, what did you do? And he mentioned that in episode 21, when they find Eric Powell in the beginning, the first scene, and they lift up his shirt and you see the stab wound that matches Caroline's, the knife wound, penetrating the aorta.
Right.
That he said that was his chest they did with the insert shot on. And then he goes telling me about how Fire Walk with Me, that he also worked on Fire Walk with Me, and that he's telling you we're going to see Leland again, with his original, brown hair, not the white hair anymore.
Spoilers.
Yeah, well, I suspected that, obviously, knowing it was a prequel, but he still said it. And then I said that, I mentioned that I'd been up to Snoqualmie, months before that, and he said, we shot some stuff down here in L.A., And I said, you're kidding me, because at that point I just assumed it was all up there. And he said, yeah. He said, the gazebo. He said, we did a lot up in Malibu Lake. He said, Leo Johnson's house and the gazebo. He said, Easter Park is in L.A.? So I was, way under 16 then. I couldn't drive, so I was able to rope my dad into driving me up to Malibu Lake. Mm. We find the gazebo. We find Leo Johnson's house, Harold Smith and the Tremon's house, all this stuff.
Jacques Renault's house?
It took me a little bit longer to find that, because that's a little bit hidden.
Right, well, right.
Jacques Renault's apartment, was back there. And then, but I found that later. And then the
Bookhouse,
Lydecker's Veterinary Clinic, One-Eye Jack's. I mean, didn't find that all there, but it was all there. Log Lady's Cabin was much later that was found. Mm. Anyway, some of the bad news is in 2018 there was a big fire up in that area.
Right.
And many of those locations burned down. The Log Lady's Cabin burned down. Harold Smith and the Tremon's house burned down.
Oh, can we talk about that? I was under the impression that it was sort of like a kind of a mobile park thing.
Right.
But no, it was the Tremon house was a house, mm-hmm. and then Harold's house was like the mother-in-law unit.
The guest house, yeah.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. It was actually two houses side by side, a guest house and the main house, with a path that went to and the entrance that Donna goes to was actually the back entrance of that house.
Right.
The front entrance, they didn't shoot.
And the people there were so kind to you that they let you just parade all around their property.
Yeah, they let me walk around their property. They let me take pictures, at the back of the house.
Right.
I mean, I was a kid, too, so that probably helped.
Yeah, definitely.
The back of the house, they opened I didn't take pictures inside, but they opened it up, and I saw the room where Mrs. Tremon was sitting on the bed. I mean, there wasn't a bed there in real life, but, and, the area where...
Looked identical.
Looked identical. It was very recognizable.
Right.
And unfortunately, that literally burned to the ground.
Now, was the woman who answered the door with Cooper and Donna, was that the real owner of that house?
That would have been hilarious. Unfortunately, no, but that would have been hilarious if it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now,
she would have given me a page.
I don't understand, because Malibu Lake is, you know what else wasn't there? The motel.
Yes, the Timber Falls Motel.
Right. Which is where Andy drops his gun.
Yeah, it's still there.
Right. Now, I don't understand. It's a pretty wealthy area. Why aren't they putting a new gazebo up? All you got to do is, call Costco.
I'm shocked, because I thought they were going to, and that burned down. First of all, it's really disappointing, because you can see Easter Park, and the dock that's also in Easter Park, where James and Maddie are sitting when Maddie tells them she's leaving, mm-hmm. and she walks off.
Spoilers.
In episode 13. Yeah, spoilers all over the place. If you haven't seen all the Twin Peaks, I highly recommend it. It's a great show. Shocked that I'm recommending
Laura Palmer dies in the first episode.
That's another spoiler.
I mean, the pilot,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she does. But,
But not really.
Not
That's
really.
an alternate timeline now.
Yeah, there's an alternate timeline, because... Turn it off if you haven't seen season 3. Cooper goes back.
Back to the Future.
He doesn't get Back to the Future.
No.
Oh, maybe. What year is this?
No.
Okay, big season 3 spoilers. I hope anybody that hasn't seen season 3, tune that out.
There it is. But thank you. You showed me all these awesome locations today, or most of them.
And some of them, this is the empty lot where it once was, but you know.
Yeah, the Harold Smith treatment area is completely overgrown now. I mean,
yeah.
You can barely see even a pathway as to how to get there.
Yeah.
So
when it first burned down, you could still see the pathway at least, and you could see some of the little bit of the foundation of the buildings. But now
I did get to see the Lydecker place, and of course the Bookhouse, and and Easter Park means a lot to me, because obviously it played such a factor not only in the show with the gazebo and the payphone with Maddie, as you know.
Oh, what's really weird is the trees are still there, like the trees that you see when Leland's heavy breathing and there's the shot at the end of episode 6. Those trees are still there. So the fire didn't get the trees, but it got the gazebo. I just don't know how that happened.
And how to jump the road and get the Harold Smith house.
Yeah, it jumped the road, but didn't get One-Eye Jack's.
It's crazy.
Yeah, which is like right across from that.
It's crazy. Another thing I really like, obviously, is the lakes there. So that's where Cooper and Annie had their little rowboat date, and then Wyndham spying on them with the binoculars.
And the island that you can see about where they're on the boat, that's still there.
So for me, awesome place to go. So thank you very much for showing me. And while I got you here, and we're talking Annie and Caroline, and we're talking Easter Park, I have to just ask you, since I have the premier Twin Peaks expert here, what you scared the heck out of me when we first talked, and you said that you'd watched Queen of Hearts, because I was like, oh my God, here it comes, the big list of everything that I did wrong. And trust me, I probably did a few things that I would probably change now if I could. Overall, what did you think of the film?
I am shocked at how right it was done, actually.
Oh, good. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that it all just fit beautifully into the mythology of the show. I think it was done with respect to the material. And, yeah, I mean, I was highly impressed. And I mean, even when you were showing me some of the stills today, the way that some of that stuff looks recreated, I mean, you showed me like one of the stills with Cooper and Carrie Page. I mean, it looks, when you look at that still, like them, like it's like
when I showed it to
unbelievable.
When I showed it to Cheryl Lee, she was like, "I don't have my glasses on, but I swear this is us."
Yeah, I mean, just some of that, and when I first saw it, I mean, I thought, okay, that's when you have Alice Tremont, I thought, okay, that's Mary Reber, but it wasn't. I'm like,
no,
unbelievable. And then also like, just the tying it into the tying with Annie and her kind of, watching over Cooper in a way, all of that. I mean, just yeah, really, really well done. It had the emotion, that of Twin Peaks in there. The emotion that we all love from these characters. That was there. I thought it was done. Yeah.
But you were really particularly interested in the Caroline stuff.
Yes. See, I have a fascination. Like during season 1 and 2, I kind of had a fascination with the Teresa Banks mystery because we learned so little. I wanted to know more about that, and I was thrilled when I heard we were going to learn about that in Fire Walk with Me.
Mm-hmm.
And in a similar way, I've always been curious about who was Caroline. Who was this woman that Cooper fell in love with before Annie? Who was she? What was she like? What was the nature of their relationship? What was the nature of her and Wyndham Earle's relationship? So I remember kind of hearing about Queen of Hearts before I knew about Cameron, and thinking, this is going to be interesting when this is done. I got to keep my eye out for this because I'd like to see somebody's take on the Caroline story.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was something, and then even like how she got the poem was something I was interested in. How that poem was there and how Wyndham Earle knew about the poem was something I wondered about, because Cooper says he sent that poem to Caroline. We know that Wyndham Earle knew about it because he's taunting him by writing the same poem, the Shelley poem.
Right.
So stuff like that, and just kind of the little Easter eggs in there for the fans that people that really love it, like the Penguin. Everything that people that love the show are going to pick up these little Easter eggs.
And if you don't, it doesn't hurt the film.
No, it's not going to hurt it. It's definitely for Twin Peaks fans.
Right.
Somebody that's never seen Twin Peaks.
Well, I'll tell you though, because you're a filmmaker as well, I kind of wrestled with it for a while. I was like, well, who do I cast in this film? Do I cast people who know Twin Peaks, right? And then you got to worry about mimicry, right? Or you're going to, or do you cast people who don't know Twin Peaks, and I got to explain everything?
That's actually a tough call. That's a tough call to decide what to do in that scenario.
Right.
Because it could either way could work or not work for the reasons you said.
Exactly.
And where did you end up going? How many of them knew Twin Peaks and how well?
Only Charlotte, who played Caroline, had seen Twin Peaks prior.
Oh wow!
To getting
was she a fan, or was she just like?
Oh, she was a fan. She had gone to Snoqualmie North then.
Oh wow!
So yeah, but in terms of everybody else, they hadn't seen it. But then they immersed
But it's fine
themselves.
with her because there's nothing to really mimic with Caroline, because you only see the pictures and then the one kind of flashback image of her in episode 21 and then the Red Room stuff.
Right. But everybody else hadn't, and then they kind of immersed themselves into it, and that actually worked out fine.
And technically, when Brenda Mathers was playing Caroline in the Red Room, in my theory, which I know I've talked about on podcasts before, in my theory, that is Wyndham Earle. So technically, she's playing Wyndham Earle when she's Caroline in the Black Lodge.
Yeah, there's evidence for that.
Yeah, very good evidence, I think. I think I could build a very, very strong case for that one.
But one thing that's going to branch off from Queen of Hearts to this is that, we know that David Lynch really likes Stephen Schoenhall's episode, I guess episode 27?
727.
Right? That's the one where Cooper and Annie go on their dance date and the giant or fireman shows up and everything like that. And we were talking just before recording, like, that I really like that scene, and I love the way it goes to the firemen showing up, and then the montage, and then something's wrong here, but the thing that kind of has always made me go, it's interesting observation here, is when Cooper says to Annie, I'm getting a little tired of these introductions when the microphone's falling down with the mayor. And that, we're usually Agent Cooper is like all about the snowshoe rabbits or the ducks and stuff like that, noticing the little things in life. What kind of trees you have around here, right? Here, he's tired of the small town niceties. He basically just wants to go to bed with Annie.
Yes.
Right? And that right there is your first tell that he is taking his eyes off the ball, right?
Which is really interesting because there's a parallel to that to the way he describes the thing with Caroline, that he wasn't ready when the attempt on her life was made because he loved her.
Right. And that is why the fireman shows up and is like, no, 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 because he sees the path of where we're heading.
And also, too, it's an interesting parallel because both of these scenes take place at the roadhouse. That and the It Is Happening Again scene before Maddie's killed.
Right.
And they both fulfill a similar function because he could have said it is happening again because it really was.
Right.
The first time it is happening again refers to it's happening to Maddie just like it did to Laura. And here it's going to happen again to Annie like what happened to Caroline with Wyndham Earl.
And then Cooper's going to get trapped.
Yeah, and the reason the fireman didn't want it to happen is because he can see where this is going. Just like setting Freddie Sykes in play with a green glove and everything else.
Right.
He sees, like a cosmic chess player. He sees all these steps and is interesting chess again.
Yeah.
And he sees all these steps ahead, and he knows that if Annie enters, she's going to win. Wyndham Earl's going to kidnap her. Cooper's going to go after her to the Black Lodge, and he might not have had it been Lana Milford. And then Mr. C's going to get out into the world. So for that reason, the fireman is there to warn him no.
Right.
And Cooper is so blinded by his attraction to Annie that he doesn't even note that warning. And doesn't take it.
Oh, he's so blinded by Annie that he won't even tell her that Wyndham Earl's in town hunting them down.
Yeah, and Annie must have got quite a shock when Wyndham Earl told her, same thing happened last time when he fell in love with my wife. I took the boy right to the edge that time.
I think Annie also got a surprise when Kenneth Welsh slammed her head into the back window of the truck.
Yes.
Because you can actually see Heather Graham go, ow.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're filming a movie and you're in those kind of tight quarters, a lot of there's accidents that can happen because it's they're in character and it's like hard,
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you showed me a lot of cool things the last few days.
Mm-hmm. You can pull those pictures out too if you want.
Yeah, you at the Palmer House in 94?
94. That was the first Twin Peaks festival I went to in 1994.
Right. Tell us about going to the Palmer House.
So 1994.
Because that owner was not letting people in the house.
No, but I think people didn't really start going en masse until after that.
Well, they couldn't find the house, probably.
Yeah, most people didn't know where it was.
Right.
And I ended up finding it. And, there was somebody at the festival who actually did know that was a local that told me how to find it. And I remember we had to go up and down a few streets, and I was there with a friend of mine, too, that came to the festival. And I went up there, and I think, I was kind of looking outside, I think I was on the street, and I think, in that case, I think the woman that owned it at the time came out. And I just said, I'm here for the Twin Peaks Festival, love the show and everything, and I guess... I said, is it okay if I just look through the open door? Something like that, just see something. And she said, tell you what, I guess she was in a good mood that day or something. She said, tell you what, we're having dinner, come back in an hour, and I'll show you the fan, and you can come inside.
Wow.
So, I remember we found a place to eat. I think it was a Red Lobster that was in Everett at the time, a local Red Lobster. Mm-hmm. And I was so excited, I thought, okay, is it almost an hour yet? And finished, went back, and...
you were there right at the moment, huh? That the bells struck.
I'm sure I probably was.
Yeah.
And then she let us in, but, we weren't allowed upstairs, so I didn't see Laura Palmer's bedroom or the Palmer, Leland and Sarah's room, but I did see the dining room when it was still looked the way that it did in Fire Walk with Me. And, the living room and all of that.
See, before I knew that they shot many of those rooms as, on a soundstage in Fire Walk with Me, I always like to imagine the image of them pushing the white horse up the staircase to get it into the bedroom.
Well, actually, they did use the Palmer master bedroom. What is the one that's in that house?
You mean when Sarah's in the bed?
Yep. That's actually the bedroom in that house. The only thing that's a set in Fire Walk with Me...
Where the horses?
Yeah.
And Laura's room?
Laura's room is the only thing that's a set in Fire Walk with Me, in the Palmer house. Let me make sure that, let me think
Well,
about
you're
that.
talking about the horse showing up, and they didn't bring that in the house, did they? They didn't bring a horse into the house.
They may have, I'm not sure how they did that. They may have green screened it or something. I doubt they brought the horse upstairs, but that shot is upstairs in the Palmer house, 100%.
Really? I thought it wasn't a soundstage.
Nope. I've got a picture of that, and it matches up exactly of that room. It matches up exactly the windows, and unless they built it identically, which I don't think they did, that's in the house.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right, so another...
Laura Palmer's bedroom in Firewalk Me was a set.
Completely. Unlike the pilot.
Unlike the pilot, which was the location.
Right. Now let's talk about you at the train car here.
Oh, yes. So, that's the train car. As I mentioned earlier, the first time I was in Snoqualmie was 1991. I actually watched episode 19 from a room at the Salish when it aired. And I wanted to tape it because I was taping all the episodes when they aired. And so we found a place locally that was right by, at that point it was the Marquee, what's now Tweed's, the Double R Diner.
Right.
And the place was called Hoffman's Video and Furniture. Because Snoqualmie of 1991 had much more kind of a small town feel even than it does now.
Right.
It's kind of been built up quite a bit over the years.
Right.
I guess several different Ghostwood Estates type projects.
Sure.
But at the time, the whole part where you go up the, I think it's called the Snoqualmie Parkway, wasn't there. In fact, that was woods. And in those woods, there was a railroad track that you followed a little bit into the woods, and there was the train car. That's, the train car. And so it was one of the most eerie places in person. Now, maybe it was because I was a kid, but I don't think so. I think it's just
And you went inside.
I went inside. And I saw where they film, the bit in the pilot where they find a sub little table, they show, and yeah.
So everything was intact.
Yeah, it was pretty intact. And they actually had it, they said it was, they said they had a night watchman that lived, I guess, in the train car. And I thought I don't know if you could pay me enough. I don't know if you could pay me enough. And it's not because, obviously there was a fictional murder scene shot there. It was just the place was eerie.
Right.
Even if I didn't know that there was any, if I'd never seen Twin Peaks, it still was eerie.
Right.
I mean, it's as eerie as it looks, if not even
more. All right,
more.
well, this is really eerie here. Tell us about you.
Are
you a philosophical real estate agent?
Most turn away. Only those with the purest of hearts can feel its pain, and somewhere in between, the rest struggle.
I didn't know you were a philosophical real estate agent, too.
I guess I can become one. But yes. That is no longer there. That was bulldozed, but it was an abandoned house when I was there. That's why you can see in my picture there that it's boarded up and everything. And I think that I realized, there was one friend of mine that moved to LA and that I'd shown in the early 2000s a lot of the locations and really wanted to see a Dead Dog Farm, and I drove him out there, and when we got there, that's when I realized that it had been torn down. And I couldn't believe it because every time I would take somebody out there, I would say, still standing almost by force of habit. Which is, the line in episode 19. Right. And I couldn't say it anymore. Because I was no longer still standing.
Okay, let me bounce around here. Here is you at Jacques' cabin, and you got inside. They filmed the interiors.
Yes.
As well as the exteriors here. So tell me about Jacques' cabin.
So this was one of the hardest ones to find. Basically, when I was in high school and stuff in the 90s, I would spend, especially after I got my driver's license, I would spend time off driving around trying to find these locations when I get hints from certain people at the festival of where they were.
Right.
That was one of the hardest ones to find because it's way out in the middle of nowhere, way up a hill. And I got enough hints to track it down because right near that is where they filmed Big Ed's Gas Farm in episode 5. Only in episode 5 when Norma comes up and meets with Ed and Ed says, Nadine's not well.
They're doing California locations at this point.
Exactly. And then that's there. And then across from there, there's a wooded area, and that's where Jacques' cabin is. At that point, Jacques' cabin was maintained because it was owned by the same people that owned... It's actually a restaurant where they did Big Ed's Gas Farm in L.A. And the people that own the restaurant own the cabin.
Right.
So I went there and I said, I asked them about the cabin, and they gave me permission to go see it. It was empty. They said, you're welcome to go down there and take pictures, whatever you want.
Right.
So the cabin was completely intact. Now, this is probably 1996, somewhere in there, when I found it. And by the mid-2000s, the state bought out that property where the woods are, and it became state property. The cabin remained, but it was no longer maintained. So over the years now, the last time I was there, I took a lot of Twin Peaks fans on a tour up there, maybe 2016, 2017.
Mm.
And at that time, the roof had collapsed in.
Mm.
The door was on the ground. And, you know, I mean, there's the frame of it there, and part of it's still, and you can still see that path they walk up.
Mm.
And also, the first time I was there, their fallen tree was still there, too, nearby, that they walk under. You know, when they hear the Julie Cruz Into the Night. And Hawk says, do you hear it?
This way.
Yeah. And that tree was there. So that's Jacques Renault's cabin. It's I haven't been there, you know, since I think 2017. I think was the last time I went there, and it was I don't even know what shape it's in now. I don't know if the pieces of the cabin are still there or if it's been removed.
Now I gotta tell you, I feel like I had a nice childhood. I feel like I had a nice, like, you know, growing up, being a teenager and everything. I did not have the kind of childhood where you're hanging out with David Lynch, Cheryl Lee, Grace Zabriskie. Yeah, this was not my childhood. So tell us about these guys.
Well, I wouldn't say I definitely wasn't hanging out with David Lynch, but that's the first I did meet David Lynch then, and that was he was doing the first time I met him. He was doing that was that picture that Cameron just showed.
Mm.
He was doing a signing at Book Soup in on Sunset Boulevard, which is this really nice kind of independent bookstore there. A lot of interesting people have done signings there. And I heard David Lynch was doing a book signing of Images, which I don't know if you remember the book Images.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if you can still get copies of that.
I don't know. I have it.
Yeah, I still have my signed copy from that day, from when that picture was taken. But that's when I first met. That was what that picture's from. And Cheryl Lee and Grace Zabriskie. Turned out my dad had a business associate that was Grace's significant other, so I met, and Grace was doing an art show, and we were invited, so I went there, and I got home from school, and my dad said, "You're not going to believe it." He showed me the flyer for the art show, and I was like, flipped out, Sarah Palmer! And then he said, "Yeah, and Cheryl Lee is going to be there too." So went there, met them, and it was incredible.
This was like 95-ish.
Yeah. And then, you know, kind of became, got to know Grace.
Well, you got to know Grace really well because, I mean, here you guys all palling around. I mean, you guys have been friends for 25 years.
Yeah, quite a while. Quite a while.
It's fantastic. Hey, let's talk about you hanging out with Dana Ashbrook, Machen Amick, Lenny Van Dolen, Harry Dean Stanton, Carol Stryken. Like, tell us about all these people.
Well, some of these are from the festival. You know, Carl Stryken attended the festival several times.
Right.
And I first met him at the Twin Peaks Festival in 1996 when Don and Pat Shook were still doing it.
Right.
And I mentioned Don and Pat Shook because I don't think they get enough credit for their role in keeping Twin Peaks alive. Because, you know, this 1992, the studio did their big, the sponsored kind of festival-esque thing that they did, where they had the premiere, and they had a lot of the cast there, and David Lynch was there introducing the film at the North Bend Theater. And inspired by that were a couple from Michigan, Don and Pat Shook, who started the, you know, fan-run Twin Peaks Festival in 1993 that went all the way through 2019. And then, you know, the ball was picked up by several different fans afterwards, you know, all fan-run organizers all the way through the end.
Right.
And they, you know, during the 90s, it was, you know, there wasn't a lot for Twin Peaks fans. Anybody, you know, there that knows that was
Twin Peaks is dead as a doornail.
Yeah.
Right.
There were two things keeping it alive: the Twin Peaks Festival and Wrapped in Plastic.
Right.
So, and that's really what there was. And this is, you know, pre-internet.
Right.
So it's before, you know, before there were internet sites or anything. I mean, I think there was that all-TV Twin Peaks, but almost nobody was on the internet. So there really was, you know, Wrapped in Plastic and the Twin Peaks Festival.
Right.
So I want to also give a shout-out to Don and Pat Shook, who were, you know, thank you to both of you for starting the Twin Peaks Festival, and which is what, you know, brought me into that, you know, meeting other Twin Peaks fans. And
but you also, and being a part of the fest, also brought a lot of the Twin Peaks people that are now known as like staples maybe on the internet into the fold. I mean, they hadn't even heard about this thing until you started bringing some people in.
Yeah, I got, about 96, 97, I started getting pretty involved in it and kind of, had to say that way.
But I mean...
But then I started working in the film industry, so I, you know, help with that and help get people...
Right, but like Charlotte Stewart, for instance, didn't even know about this thing until you brought her into the fold.
Yeah, Charlotte Stewart, I got to meet because Wendy Roby was doing a play. This is 1996, because it was right before Lost Highway came out. It was 96. And Wendy Roby, I got a call. I don't remember who was to call me, but somebody told me that Wendy Roby was doing a play of Macbeth at a theater downtown LA. And Charlotte Stewart was going to be, at that point, she owned a catering company that was going to be doing it, and they were going to also make it as a kind of a tribute to Jack Nance.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was early '97. Anyway, it would have been early '97 actually.
Right.
Somewhere in there. And so, and then I got from somebody involved, and they said, and I said, if Charlotte Stewart wants anybody to help out, I'm happy to volunteer. So then I get a call, Charlotte wanted me to volunteer, so I went over there, and that's how I met Charlotte. And I remember asking her, about the new David Lynch film. She said she had seen Lost Highway, and I was excited, and she said, obviously I can't say anything right now, but I was excited she had seen it. And then I started telling her about the Twin Peaks Festival, and I said, I can speak for, the Shooks were still running at the time. I said, I'm sure I can speak for them, but love to have you. And she said, yeah. And she kind of became a staple of the festival. She wasn't at every one, but she was at most of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlotte, is, obviously a great woman.
But I want you to talk about a little bit, too, about this picture of you with Dana and Machen, because this was for special features
Yes.
of season 2 of
Mm-hmm.
Twin Peaks, and none of this was ever used on any release.
That was, individually, but yes, them together was not.
Right.
What happened was, I don't know, I think I might have talked about it on your show before, too.
Right. About the directors.
Yeah. My friend Adam and I were brought in. We were assisting on with a company called Lip Sync that was doing the extras for the season 2 DVDs. So we did a lot of getting the actors and the interviews. I wrote a lot of the questions for the interviews for that stuff. And that was the stuff that's on the season 2 DVD. And if you notice in the gold box, we're credited as additional interviews because they did a lot of new interviews for that, but some of the old ones are the ones from that set, and that's why we're credited on there as additional interviews. And we got Dana and Machen together.
Right.
And we interviewed them separately and together. But, we had nothing to do with the editing of it, and they didn't use any of the footage with the two of them together. But
Which is crazy.
it does exist, and we did shoot it.
All right, so some other cool pictures. Here's you and Ray Wise, Gracie Brisky. That's fun. Look at you learning how to use the log by Catherine Coulson.
Which one? Oh, yes, that was the first festival I went to. That was the '94 festival, that top one.
Oh, okay.
And the bottom one is the 2000 festival.
Here's you hanging out with Major Briggs.
Don Davis was a...
Peggy Lipton, Kenneth Welsh. It's amazing.
Don Davis, that was also...
Michael
Don
Horse.
Davis was a regular at the festival for many, many years in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Right.
He was going to a lot of festivals, and everybody loved Don Davis. I mean, yeah,
Here's-
it's just great.
Here's you and Rose Tamblyn, Everett McGill, Francis Bay.
Yeah, Everett McGill was at the 2000 festival. Also, that's where that picture was.
Right. Here's you and little Mike and Francis Bay, and then at
Yes.
the bottom here's you and David Duchovny, James Marshall, Piper Laurie.
Piper Laurie came to one festival, the 2009.
Here's you and Miguel Ferrer, Jack Nance.
Yeah, I think I told the Jack Nance story last night.
Right. That's
95 Fest, yeah.
Great picture. Great picture. Oh yeah, here's you arm in arm with Charlotte Stewart, and you down here with Julie Cruz.
Yep, that was the 2002 festival. The year that was one of the 2 years that my family and I ran the festival, 2002 and 2003.
Right.
That's when we had Julie Cruz perform at the 2002 festival.
You got to tell this story. Here's you and Emery Battis.
Oh, I told that story last night.
Okay. Well, yeah. This is amazing.
Yeah, that was kind of a funny story.
And then, it just goes on and
All
on.
these are from the the ones with the directors is from the DVD extras.
Right. Dwayne Dunham and Caleb Deschanel.
Yeah, that was from the shooting the DVD extras for season 2.
It's great stuff. I gotta tell you, spending a weekend with you, I feel like I felt like I always knew, David Lynch's work, Twin Peaks, etc. I feel like I have gone like 10 more levels higher up since arriving here Saturday morning.
Yeah, I know it's yeah, I always tell people when they come over, I say, watch it, you're entering a deep dive into a David Lynch world here. I've got a interesting
There's
collection of
I,
stuff.
I will just say this: there are a lot of things that we have talked about, that we have looked at, that I cannot say, and you can't say. I will just say this: the last 24, 36 hours over have been invaluable to me as a fan.
Okay,
and
I'm glad to hear it.
I am thrilled that you took me up on my impromptu offer.
Absolutely, yeah.
And let me come down here.
No, yeah. So it's fun. It's good to do this.
Well, we actually hadn't met in person, so.
That is true.
All right. So if anybody has any comments or questions, throw it out. And probably have another like 20 minutes or so before we wrap this up. But
I wanted to get a bag of marshmallows for this, because I don't want to. Never gonna burn these.
Hello, Melanie. Thank you for saying that's good to have you here. You wanted to ask a couple questions to the viewers.
Okay. Yes. So I was talking about earlier the trivia game, which I kind of ran at the festival from '96 through.
Right.
And near the end, I'd get like this final question for the 3 finalists.
Right.
And I thought of a really we were talking about it, and it was kind of a difficult one that came up.
Mm-hmm.
But and that was really difficult, which are what are the four places in Montana named in the show?
Well, we talked about that last night.
Yes, last night. And then I mentioned the one that I had in the 2019.
Right.
And that was, and I kind of like this one, but it's a bit tricky. And the last word, well, in season 1, technically the second to last word, but the last word kind of too. In season 1, I'm sorry.
Right.
But we'll say second to last word, or kind of last word. I'll describe it once I give the answer. But the last word, season 1, 2, Fire Walk Me in season 3, a character's name. What are the characters' names that last word of each season?
You want me to try to answer?
Oh, no, I know you know.
Okay.
No, you answered earlier.
Yeah.
For everybody out there.
I got 3 out of the 4, folks. And it was
It's
it was almost on a technicality was the 4th one. But.
Yeah, it was because I kind of threw you by making it sound. When I said it was...
So we're basically looking for the last name that we hear at the end of seasons 1, 2, Fire Walk Me, and season 3.
Right.
Anybody?
If anybody wants to start with season 2.
Yeah, that's should be an easy one.
Yeah, that's the one that I think...
I think if you have even casually watched Twin Peaks, you might know that. Alex says Annie. Well,
correct.
Correct. Well.
Yes.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
You win yourself a Douglas fir.
Now, speaking of that was another question that I think is an interesting one. What kind of pine needle in episode 21 when when Doc Hayward's in there and they're examining Eric Powell's body, with the chessboard, played by Craig McLaughlin, Kyle's brother,
right.
William Earl's chess victim there, and Cooper finds a pine needle and he asks Harry if it's a Douglas fir, and Harry responds that it's what kind of tree does that needle come from?
You got a thing for this Eric Powell character, let me tell you.
How did it come up? We were talking about him for some...
The
picture,
wound.
yeah, that's why. The wound. Oh, that's why, yes, okay. See, there was a mental connection there. There was a method to my madness. I wasn't even aware of it until Cameron pointed it out.
Right.
I don't know if I've asked that question. I probably did.
So while you guys were thinking about this, there's a little Queen of Hearts thing here, where in the show, her maiden name was Powell.
Yes.
Right? And then in the final dossier, it was...
Wickham. Yep.
And so when she's introduced in the film, Wyndham Earl says, hey, isn't it the former Powell, or is it Wickham this week? I can never keep it straight. And then Caroline just dismisses it and just says, family drama.
Right. That explains it, yeah, because that one's a bit tricky to explain outside of continuity or any other way, you know what I mean? Because even if you're going to go with the dual timelines, if you're going to go with the dual timeline theory that there's the one where Laura died, one where she didn't, that's not going to change Caroline's maiden name.
No, but I just thought it would be kind of fun to acknowledge them both.
Which is, I think somebody's saying something.
Oh. Ponderosa?
Nope, that's a good guess though, because originally in the script for the pilot it was ponderosa pine. When he said, "What kind of fantastic trees have you got going around here? Big, majestic," and Truman says Douglas firs. Originally in the script that was ponderosa pine. Now when David Lynch found the warehouse or mill office, which became the Twin Peaks Sheriff Station, the manager of that station was showing him around, and I guess David Lynch said something about the ponderosa pine, and he said, "Actually, these are Douglas firs." And so that's why.
Good thing he said something.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would have been, what kind of fantastic trees have we got going around here? Big, majestic, ponderosa pines. And Kabua said, ponderosa pines. Could someone get me a copy of the coroner's report on the dead girl? So instead of that, we get an interesting little story there.
Douglas firs works much better.
Yeah, it works much better. It actually sounds better, too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, could you picture, smell those trees, smell those ponderosa pines.
Any other comments, questions, or names that were used at the...
but it was lodgepole pine was the...
Okay.
Was what that needle was.
Lodgepole pine.
That's what I would call the level 3 questions at the
I just love the fact that the lights go out, they're dealing with this stuff. And then in season 3, when we see the sawmill directly across from the sheriff's station, everyone's like, well, no one ever really tells us where the sawmill is in conjunction.
Definitely not there.
It's definitely not there because Leo Johnson is not trying to kill Shelley burning the mill down across the street from the sheriff's station.
And also, in the pilot, when he says, got a call from people, just got a call from Pete Martell up at the mill.
Right.
Truman gets in his cruiser and he drives away.
Right. Otherwise,
he doesn't walk across the street.
Hey, Josie. Because then we'd have lots of seduction scenes of Josie in the sheriff's station.
Yeah, she'd just be walking across. And also, they kind of close the blinds when they're in the conference room because outside those blinds you could see the mill. So you notice in the pilot they're kind of closed a little bit because if they were wide open you would have seen the mill there.
Right.
As to why the mill is in the background in that shot,
when they could have easily, moved the camera just a tad over. My YouTube was stuck on the intro. I don't know. Sorry. Sometimes it's going too quick because on here, but if they had moved the camera just a little bit, we wouldn't have seen the mill, right?
Yes.
So I think it's a way of showing that again the universe is in disarray. Mm-hmm. Things aren't quite where they should be.
Because he intentionally showed it. And also, we get the shot at the beginning of season 3 where we see the same.
They establish
the same
it.
Shot, yeah.
So they do make it clear so that
Yeah.
We're to be reminded at the start that the mill burned down. It's a remembrance.
Yeah, exactly. And also because, and it's not the credit sequence, but it kind of plays at the beginning. It's a remembrance too of seeing the mill in the opening credits.
Right. Absolutely.
But now it's different. It's burned out. Which is almost a metaphor in a way for what's happened to the town of Twin Peaks over 25 years. It's gotten much darker by season 3, The stuff that was under the surface is a little bit more above the surface now.
Well, everybody's broke. Everybody's living in, trailer parks.
Yeah. And the violence is more, people are going into the roadhouse and literally removing a woman from the booth she's sitting in. And she's crawling on the floor and everybody's ignoring her. That's...
Well, there's that. There's also, I'm going to get up for a second. Was it Richard Horn, strangling a woman in the booth.
Yeah, and nobody's helping her.
No. Yeah, there's just a lot of... it just seems like the world, the doppelganger's out and the world has just gone haywire.
Yeah, exactly.
Little girls are vomiting uncontrollably in cars now.
Yes.
and Bobby is all of us, right?
Yeah, he is.
Bobby is all of us and just looking at it with a dumbfounded thing.
Yeah.
Dumbfounded look.
Yeah, he does not know what to make of it.
You two are great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sorry, guys. My head's cut off because if I sit on the ground, I'm going to get a leg cramp, and that's going to be no good for anybody.
Yeah, I'm not I'm sitting like this, so it's helping.
So, anyway, any other comments, questions? So what has been fun for you this past weekend? Because I know just seeing my face just go...
Yeah, it's
bonkers.
It's been fun to drive to locations and just talk Twin Peaks theories and get deep into it. It's something I love doing that, and it's been a pleasure. It's been a while since I've gone to a lot of these locations, because we had the pandemic and I had some health issues over the last year that kind of prevented me from doing a lot of stuff that I used to do. So it's been a while, really since post-COVID that I've gone to these places too. So it's been fun to go back and revisit them, and I'll tell you, a lot of stuff is more overgrown than it was before. like where you could see One Eye Jack's, there's a bridge, which is actually the bridge that Hawk is parked by in his van.
Right.
When he's listening into, Cooper and Jock. That
Well,
you could see, like before, you could see the dock, the One Eye Jack's dock, and the tree is so overgrown now it's kind of blocking it.
right. Well, one thing we were talking about is that, sometimes in all... Sorry. Does your guest... I'm sorry, can you post that again? I couldn't see it. One thing we were talking about was that sometimes in all fandoms, there's good times, there's bad times, there's, all types of stuff happening. And for the last couple of years, even though we are huge... does your guest feel season 3 was an ending to the series? Do you think season 3 was the ending of the series?
I don't think it was intended as an ending. No.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't have any reason to know that one way or another.
Right.
But personally, I don't.
It's too much world building and too much of a setup.
Yeah.
To just be the ending.
I believe there was at least I don't know what happened or if it's going to happen or if it was, but I do think. I remember when it ended, I thought, okay, we're going to get a season 4. That's
right.
what I thought when I saw it end.
Absolutely.
And as to whether we will or not is anybody's guess, but I don't think... I think it was intended in a way, it was like with the season 2 ending. Over time, it obviously wasn't intended as an ending, but over time I actually came to accept it as one.
Right. Well, I think every stopping point in Twin Peaks is a potential, pause.
Yeah.
It's not... the ending.
Well, you remember what Mark Frost did at the USC event, and he said Twin Peaks is a continuing story, and that comes from both David and I. And obviously, that's still going to hold. It's a continuing story, and the idea being that it's going, that fictional world is going on, whether we're getting to see it or not. And that's why I think a lot of things aren't exposited. When you look at season 3, we don't get explanations on what happened to Leo. We don't get explanations on.
We do in the final dossier.
We do in the final dossier, but not in the show.
Right.
And so we don't get it in, the Lynch-Frost combined thing. We get it in, Mark Frost's book, but that might not be the way David Lynch sees it. They might see that differently. So we don't get an official answer that they're both involved in. But yes, we do get in the final essay, but there's a lot of things that are not mentioned in the show. And I think, we learned that Hank died in prison in, the Secret History of Twin Peaks, but we don't see that in the show. And I think it's because... that idea that the world is there, we're just not seeing it. And, are people really going to be talking about Leo if he's been dead for 25 years?
No.
It would be, exposition that would be unnatural to see that. So I think...
Well, as I said to Sabrina Sutherland, it doesn't feel necessarily like season 3, but more of like season 25, and the show has kept going in the years we haven't seen it.
I think you're exactly right, because if it was, they're probably not going to reference Leo Johnson. And I do believe that the final dossier, what we hear there, is... likely what happened to Leo, because it makes perfect sense.
Yes.
And obviously, Albert, because it's Albert that wrote the autopsy report, it would have been Mr. C that did that,
right.
Not Wyndham Earl, because he was already in the line.
So Mr. C, with Bob and Wyndham Earl and anybody else inside of him, is able to access Wyndham's cabin.
Yes.
Takes out Leo, grabs Wyndham's briefcase, and that's what he has in the motel.
Correct. And here's what I think. Here's the way that I think that played out. So we know Cooper leaves the hospital.
Right.
Dr. Hayward sees him leave the hospital.
Mr. C.
Yeah, Mr. C.
Right.
I called him Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they thought it was Cooper, Mr. C.
Like I said, are you a real Twin Peaks fan or what?
Maybe I'm not.
All right.
Maybe I'm not. Yeah, Mr. C, who leaves the hospital. We know that he goes to see Major Briggs. He has a conversation with him. We don't quite know what it was about.
Right.
He leaves. Major Briggs goes up to Betty Briggs. He tells her, that one day their son Bobby and Sheriff Truman and Hawk are going to come to ask about Agent Cooper. That whole bit that we hear in part 9.
Right.
And to show him the chair.
This is the chair.
Yep. Now, I have that chair in the other room. Just kidding. That was a joke.
Don't tell me things like that.
I know. That's why I said it was a joke quickly.
Hey, don't tempt somebody who has Blue Velvet shooting schedules at my fingertips.
Yeah. Probably not. Probably best not to.
Yeah.
So he goes and he sees Major Briggs. Now, Major Briggs realizes that it's not the real Cooper. So as we know, he goes up to his listening post Alpha.
Right.
On Blue Pine Mountain.
Right.
By Jackrabbit's Palace. He goes up there, and it's clear that he's followed by Mr. C.
Right.
Now, we know that
But Major Briggs, fakes his death.
Yes.
Right.
There's a fire probably set by Major Briggs
right.
to stop Mr. C from getting any information.
Right.
We then know Major Briggs clearly takes I'm going to speculate on this, but I think it's pretty safe to say he went to the 253 yard, the entrance past Jack Rebel's Palace to the White Lodge.
Right.
The fireman's. He ends up in the fireman's, where he then gets moved from there to another place where he's hibernating. As they say, Mr. C believes that Major Briggs is dead. So he's lost his lead on the coordinates and all of that. He's lost his lead.
Hang on a second. Repost that. I didn't see it. Guys, go ahead.
Okay. So then, Mr. C, not knowing what to do before he leaves town,
Right.
because he has, Wyndham Earl's, Bob took Wyndham Earl's, so he's got that info. He goes and he goes to Wyndham Earl's cabin, thinking he might be able to, that he can get the stuff Wyndham Earl has and maybe get some information because Major Briggs was there.
Right.
So he goes there, he sees Leo, and because Mr. C, as we see the way that he is, he doesn't
want
care.
witnesses.
He doesn't want witnesses. He just plugs Leo.
Right.
And takes the briefcase, and then he leaves town. And that's
so who calls him at the motel?
Judy. Inside Sarah Palmer.
Right.
That's what I believe.
Right.
Very strongly believe. I'm quite convinced of it.
Right. It's the only other person it could be. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not Philip Gerard.
It's not Philip Gerard. Definitely not Philip Gerard, I would say, and definitely not Philip Jeffries, as we know. Mr. C even realizes that.
And because Wyndham Earl is inside Mr. C, that explains why there's bonsai trees at the New York location.
Yes, I believe that Mr. C planted the bonsai tree because he knew that, these guys like Sam Colby was being hired. He wanted to hear what he was doing.
Right.
I also believe that he sent Tracy in there because he wanted to see what would happen. He sent Tracy in there probably to seduce Sam because he wanted them to do that, because it's like, that's why in the Secret History of Twin Peaks there's all stuff about the sex magic.
Right.
And that's why Cooper and Diane have that kind of really uncomfortable sex scene, because that's summoning Judy. And he wants to see if that's going to happen. That's why... And he has the bonsai tree so he can hear it, because he remembers through Wyndham.
All right, what about the theory, which I love, which is that Mr. C, because of having taking advantage of Audrey, goes to Brazil and takes out John Justice Wheeler?
I like it because, I think it makes perfect sense. And the reason is, the character that's established of John Justice Wheeler, unless there's some secrets we don't know about...
Good guy.
Yeah, good guy. So, tell the hardest truth first, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's not going... And if John Justice Wheeler finds out, even in Brazil, that Audrey is pregnant, he's going to immediately assume that the baby's his.
Right.
He's not going to stay in
Brazil. Because of their airplane tryst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's going to think that Audrey told him that she was a virgin.
Right.
He's not going to know about the Mr. C thing. He's going to obviously assume that's his kid. He's going to go back there for the kid.
Can we pause real quick? Sherilyn Fenn, Billy Zane, in a remake of The Omen with Richard Horn.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
That would have been interesting. John Justice Wheeler coming back and thinking
that Richard Horn's his kid?
Thinking Richard Horn's his kid. Yeah, or maybe maybe he did come back and young Richard Horn killed them.
Imagine Richard Horn wearing one of those sweaters.
Wow. Maybe they'll be like, if there is ever a season 4.
He could be like, "I hate you, mommy," and then Audrey could be like, "What else?" Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe in a season 4 we'll see some, the Photoshop picture with Wally Brando that Lucy has.
Right.
Maybe it'll be one like that Audrey.
Now I have a theory about why that picture is the way it is.
What's your theory?
Because if he was born premature like a Razorhead baby. Because if you go by his birthday, he was only born a few weeks after Miss Twin Peaks, and she's not even showing.
Yeah.
So I think they don't even know if he's a baby.
Yeah, that's even quicker than the Eraserhead baby,
Yeah. So.
But they don't tell us how long, how many months the Eraserhead baby's born, but by
she's
Henry
not...
saying that's impossible, it's only been, and then she cuts him off and says,
Right.
It's premature, but there's a baby. So this would probably be even more premature than Mary X, but we don't,
Exactly. So, crazy stuff here. Gut instinct. Do you feel like there's going to be a continuation at some point?
I'd like to be optimistic.
Whether it be Lynch or Frost involved or not.
Oh. Yes.
Yeah. It's going to happen again.
Yeah. As to whether it's going to be, neither one of them involved, which will be something that I guess we'll all deal with as the time comes. But I think that because the property is out there, that, at some point, as we've seen with a lot of,
Remember that time, I'm sure you do, when Lynch left season 3 for a while?
I sure do.
Right? And he left right after Kyle had signed the contract. So in a way, Showtime could have just made Kyle go ahead and do their own version of season 3.
I know a lot of the other cast members saying I'm not going to do it without David Lynch, but
Kyle had already signed.
Yeah, Kyle had signed. He wouldn't have had a choice.
Right. It would have been Agent Cooper's Mystery Hour on Showtime.
Yep.
Every Sunday at 5:00.
Or Dougie Jones's Mystery Hour.
Yeah, that would have been something there.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? You got us here for another 5-10 minutes, guys. Hit us up.
If you want to hear any other theories?
This is Josh and me live together.
I got theories about everything. If anybody wants to have any questions.
I will say this: season 3 is not quite as complicated as people have made it out to be.
I think it's that way with a lot of David Lynch films, in a way.
True. I think that you're kind of bombarded by how big it is and how vast it is, but then when you kind of look back at it, a few years later, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it's I think you could really, and the thing is, because so much of particularly season 3 and what David Lynch does is he'll give you answers in imagery as opposed to words, which he's very big on, and that's why we never hear anybody say.
All right, it says, always appreciate hearing theories, especially from those as well versed as yourselves.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I always enjoy talking about them. I mean, that was one of the things I always love about Twin Peaks events is go there, talk to other people about theories that love the show, and that's part of the fun.
It's really funny because when you would talk about season 1 and 2 in general, I could talk all day about it, but you look back at it, it's very straightforward. Season 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Compared to season 3.
Oh yeah. But season 3, I mean, we get a lot of the same answers. It's just shown more visually,
Right.
And it's pretty much accepted, that Sarah Palmer's possessed by Judy. Nobody says that, but we all kind of know it.
It's pretty obvious, and
it's extremely obvious.
But even when she's knocking out the picture, right? It reminds me a lot of Mariette at the end of Wild at Heart.
Yes.
Girl, what have I told you not to go?
Yeah, it is that.
It's very much that, because remember what he said to Diane Ladd is she's dying inside.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on with Sarah.
Yeah,
you think?
And that's what allowed, I think, Judy to get in there. I think that over all these years, Sarah Palmer's sitting alone. She has to, with this horrible loss.
Right.
And the fact that, she saw things like the wash your hands scene, and that she did kind of, she didn't know exactly what was going on, but she knew enough to kind of look the other way. And
right. And so when people say, well, how come Bob's looking for Judy when he was married to her the whole time? No, he wasn't, because the frog moth was inside Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Judy broke out of the glass, that was the beacon.
Correct.
Right.
And I think that frog moth is what gave Sarah Palmer the vision to have the ability to have these visions. That's why that happened.
Right.
She had that in there, which acted like as a beacon.
And it wasn't like she had a giant frog moth in her. It's like all this,
Yeah, that's why if you, in the final dossier, you see the whole bit about they didn't find anything in her, because it's...
Right.
Yeah, and that was, it was like a beacon, so...
And that's why she's talking in the finale. I'm in the Black Lodge.
Yes.
Right? Because it can speak through her.
Yeah. Well, that's... Yes, exactly. I have a whole theory about that, but that's a very long thing.
Right. And
that for another time.
And same thing with the whole meta aspect of Part 18. I don't really believe the fact that they've crossed over into the real world.
No, because it would have been Mary Reber answering the door, not Alice Tremont.
Right.
For starters.
Right, exactly. And so my theory is that they're still in Judy's world of Odessa.
And I don't want to go too much into this because I'm going to be doing more with this idea later, but I'll just say a little bit to tease it. Everybody remembers the Fire Walk With Me poem, One Chance Out Between Two Worlds, the missing pieces line. We've descended from pure air, going up and down, intercourse between the two worlds. All these references to two worlds.
Even the special feature of the restaurant is between two worlds.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So I would pause it. I don't want to go too much into my theory on this right now, but I will later. Let's just say that I think when we're dealing with Twin Peaks the whole time, we're dealing with two worlds.
Hey.
And they've crossed over into the other one. And I have a big theory about what they both are and everything, but that's a...
I mean, Cooper, you may be fearless in this world, but there are many worlds.
But there are other worlds, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, yes.
And that gives me the shivers when I think about it.
Yeah. And, and also this is all a plan that was laid out, and Cooper, knows a lot of this stuff. He knows that he's going to cross over. He knows that he's going to basically sleep with Diane. That's not a romantic thing. That is,
necessity.
Yeah, it's a necessity. And that's why Cooper's so matter-of-fact about it. And it's not, it's not... the way that it is, and then
It's so nice to know though that a man in his 60s can turn himself on like that still.
Yeah.
There's no romance involved. No foreplay. Just
Because we know too. Also, speaking of this, we know that from Diane that they only had kissed once before. Remember, we learned that from the Tulpa in part 16. When she's talking about Mr. C coming there, no knock, no doorbell, that he kissed her and said it only happened once before.
Do you think Diane is bald under those wigs?
If she is, then that's very interesting, considering all the rumors that were spreading about Laura Dern playing a bald character in Unrecorded Night Wisteria.
Or what about her and Naomi Watts in Netflix taking meetings when they are playing sisters?
Yes, which is interesting too, because we know that Janie E. And of course, interesting. See, there's the hint. Janie E. Janie Evans, her maiden name, Diane Evans.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, because she's Janie E. Jones.
Right.
Janie dash E. It's Diane Evans. Janie dash E is Janie Evans. That's why her nickname's Janie E.
Or what about Sonny Jim's first lines in episode 5? I need to brush my teeth.
Yeah. 6. Yes, part 6.
6. Yeah. I need to brush my teeth.
Yeah. I haven't brushed my teeth yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really ominous.
Yeah, when he gives him the chips, when he puts the chip down.
Right.
For Sonny Jim, yeah.
Right. And that was apparently based on David Lynch's childhood room. Sonny Jim's room.
The cowboy light, yeah. Which is interesting. It's just with the cowboy light.
Right.
Which is interesting too. Obviously, the cowboy, Mulholland Drive.
Oh, and
Cowboy and the Frenchman, and
oh yeah,
Wilder Heart Cowboys. Actually, there's a lot of cowboys in David Lynch films. Now I'm thinking about it.
He loves the cowboys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Old Hollywood,
So many discussion points, so many theories. We could literally, if you enjoy this hour, you should have been here this whole weekend. Like, this was us for the whole last 24 hours or more.
Yeah, and this this is the fun of all of it, and that's what I'm saying. That was the life at all these.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. There's good and bad parts of being in fandoms and stuff, and I gotta tell you, there's been times where sometimes I feel like I go, oh my god, I just can't. I don't know, for whatever reason, sometimes some things get to me and I just go, I don't know, maybe I should back off from the, and that type of thing. And then there's conversations with you or conversations with you guys where I think, wow, I'm so proud to be a David Lynch Twin Peaks fan.
And the thing is, somebody's been to a ton of Twin Peaks events, a ton of festivals and stuff. It's, 98% good stuff.
Right.
And, the vast and 98% great experiences, probably more. If I add up all the ones, every festival and every event that I've been to, so not just the festival, I've been to a lot of Twin Peaks events, and they're all wonderful, and it's all been great experiences. And it's like this, it's discussing theories with other people that love the show and sharing the love of this, universe that's been created that we all enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that I agree with a lot of his theories helps.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd just be at each other's throats.
Yes, I've talked to people that disagree, and we've done it very respectfully.
Yeah, but here's the thing: all of your theories are based off serious evidence.
Yes, I don't come up with a theory without evidence to back it up. That's one of my rules.
Like Diane doesn't exist.
Yes, I would not. I remember, thinking that was ridiculous before, and I heard that several times.
And there's one way
at different festivals.
I mean, come on, how else would he get the earplugs?
Yeah, which was always my response. I heard several people at festivals, especially in the '90s, say, I don't think Diane exists. I think it's just. And this is before we saw the missing pieces scene too.
Right, but what? So Cooper's just insane.
Yeah, Cooper's insane, and he sent himself the earpillow silicone earplugs.
Yeah,
and nobody at the FBI ever sees him talking to a tape recorder that's not a real person. And of course, then we had, but you could say it's, the book and call it non-canon, but you could have also, the autobiography of Dale Cooper clearly has, you learn that Diane is very real. But,
oh, she's real, all right.
Yeah, well, no question anymore. But yeah, I do like to base all the theories on, backed up evidence, and here's where I got that from, here's where this came from, and sometimes I do a little reach, and I always say, okay, I'm reaching here, but it's a reach I think we can make.
But sometimes with David Lynch, you do have to take a step of faith.
Yeah, sometimes you do. But if it's kind of consistent with other things that he's done in the past, it can still work.
Right. I mean, while Fire Walk With Me may be the proper prequel sequel to Twin Peaks, I think you'd have to be kind of a moron to not say that Blue Velvet is also a prequel to Twin Peaks, even though it's not.
Right.
It is the thematic prequel.
Yes.
I mean, Jeffrey and Sandy are Cooper and Diane.
Yeah. Well, there's that line where they're talking about it when they're filming in the Blu-ray extras, where they're filming the scene in Part 18 in the motel room.
Right.
Yeah, they're making a reference to Blue Velvet all over again,
And when she says to him, "I don't know if you're a detective or a pervert," that goes all the way to Agent Cooper.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
He's so much of a pervert. He's just taking women he hasn't seen in 25 years to cheap-ass motels, making them do all the work, and then getting up, leaving a different motel, and then picking up another woman.
Is there a metaphor there somewhere? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's not making Dale Cooper sound like a very good person.
Yeah.
The way you're describing it there, it's making him sound like not such a good person. But, that's Richard Cooper. We gotta say that's Richard Cooper. And that gets into a whole other thing on the Richard and Linda and everything else, which is a big rabbit hole.
Yeah, and that may or not have been part of the original concept.
Yeah, who knows? That script has never surfaced, like all the other ones did.
It has not scripted or surfaced, but I believe Mark Frost has kind of said out loud, like, I don't remember writing anything about Richard and Linda.
Yeah. I mean, I think that probably Cooper Diane sex scene in the motel, I'm sure, was there because also because of the sex magic stuff that's in The Secret History of Twin Peaks, which I think is definitely referencing that and the Sam and Tracy scene.
And I think Carrie Page was there.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty obvious by the name.
Yeah.
But I think the Richard Linda thing was a way of just kind of turning things on its ear.
Right. But since Richard and Linda is somebody saying something there.
Oh, can you repost that, please? Go ahead.
So, yeah, sorry, my eyesight is not so good right now, so that's why. I see something up here, but I can't read it from back here.
That's why we have his script pages right here.
Exactly, everything. It just appears on the back of the account ledgers.
Yeah.
And you just read it right off that. But yeah, Richard and Linda. But the Richard Cooper, and a lot of people have noticed this. It seems to be a combination of all the different variations of Cooper in one.
Sure.
And then we have the new Dougie Tulpa too.
Right.
That we don't really see enough of to know, but he also seems to be a little bit of a combination of Dale Cooper at first with the
Well, you know why? Because it's actual Dale Cooper who gave the hair, not Mr. C.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have that. He has the good tendencies.
Yes, but the tulpa is made by Mike.
So
the question is, what kind of tulpa is Mike making and why?
I don't know. Someone who can bring him a cherry pie once in a while from that store.
Yeah.
That's why he's saying, "Don't die, don't die." He wants his pie.
Right. From they never say the name on screen. Zymans. How would that be pronounced? Because they never say it in the show.
Right.
We just see it. The same place where Tracy works.
Now you also have a theory why he's credited as Philip Gerard in season 3 and not Mike.
Yeah, I think somewhere in the intervening. Now, a lot of people wondered a lot, and I heard a lot of this, at different tours they're giving people on different events and stuff. A lot of people have theorized and asked, and I've been asked the question personally: do you think Philip Gerard dies in episode 16?
Right.
Of season 2.
He may not have died.
And I don't think he did.
No, but I think he went into maybe a long-term coma or something.
That's possible. I think because if he did, we would have heard something about it. I think Cooper would have felt guilty because Dr. Hayward's warning him any longer can kill him.
But there has to be a reason why Al Strobel is not in the second season finale.
Yeah.
Why? Why don't they bring Mike in there, but they bring in the giant?
Well, I guess he's a traveling salesman, and
no, but you would think that Mike would make a final, curtain call.
Yeah.
In the finale.
But if Mike is in Philip Gerard's body, Philip Gerard is not in the lodge at that point. So I think that Philip Gerard may have died in the intervening 25 years.
Okay.
So, like a lot of the people that had the lodge spirits inside of that are inhabiting them,
right? It's
Philip Gerard that is, in the Black Lodge.
But why can the firemen show up in the Black Lodge, but they can't show up in the White Lodge?
I think the White Lodge might be a little bit stronger, as we see,
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Judy's trying to break into the Purple Room.
Yeah. Well, yes, she is. Yes,
Mother is coming.
Mother is coming. Yeah.
And in fact, I thought that Ronette Pulaski being named American Girl. I mean, this is totally wrong. So this is just a fake thing. But when I first saw that she was named American Girl, my theory was that, Laura didn't die. Leland still killed Ronette, and like Mary Kelly with Jack the Ripper, destroyed her beyond recognition. And so instead of she just became like American Girl, but that's not true.
Yeah, but
it's not true. But I'm saying that's how my initial thought process was.
Right.
I'm
saying, interesting.
But that's not true at all, because the final dossier puts that to rest.
Yes, but I was going to say something else too about that. I was going to get into that Purple Room, but that gets into my whole.
John Thorne gets into it, and he actually does a pretty good job of it in his book.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I'm sure. Yeah, John Thorne always has great theories. I definitely look forward to
that one especially is solid.
Because it's probably going to be different than mine. But I have one, and it goes into my two worlds thing that I don't really want to get into yet.
Right.
But it gets into that.
Right.
A bit. And the idea of the dreamer.
Right.
Fits into this. And maybe more than one dreamer. I'll just say that. More than one world, more than one dreamer. But now I'm saying too much. Anyway, I was going to say something. Oh, Ronette Pulaski.
Yeah.
So about what you were talking about with Leland and her.
Oh, can we say what her original name was in the show?
Yes, in the original script.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sharon Pulaski.
Ew.
How she was originally scripted.
That sounds like Polanski.
Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, no wonder they changed it.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
I'm sorry, Ronette is much better than Sharon.
Yeah, it just has a better ring to it for the character.
No offense, Sharon's out there in the world.
No.
I just like
But
Ronette.
for this character.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're both good names, but for this particular character, Ronette Pulaski.
I can't imagine Phoebe Augustine, going down the train car and it's Sharon Pulaski.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Ronette works.
Yeah. Or Cooper at the town hall. There are irrefutable similarities, which for obvious reasons I cannot discuss, that lead us to conclude that Laura Palmer was the second, and Sharon Pulaski would have been the third victim of the same killer. Doesn't work.
Thumbs down.
No, doesn't work.
I don't like it.
Doesn't work.
Change the channel.
Absolutely.
Put it on Saturday nights, 10 o'clock.
Absolutely. What else was on? Kidding. Okay, so I was going to say one more little thing here. I know I've said this a lot before. I don't know if I've said it on your show, Cameron, but I know I've said it in places.
Are you running around on me? Going around doing other shows?
I've done a lot of shows.
Oh, my God. You Twin Peaks tramp.
I guess I am. I guess I'm the Laura Palmer of Twin Peaks shows,
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Dang.
But,
we better wrap this one up in plastic.
Exactly, yeah. Well, we're wrapping in plastic, but I'll say one more thing.
Okay, all right.
Ronette Pulaski, not Sharon Pulaski.
Yeah.
Ronette Pulaski.
Right.
Was okay. Why Leland bought her the train car? So this is the theory that I have about this.
Okay.
Because the question would be, Leland goes and he beats up Jacques. Jacques is so drugged out he thinks it's Leo that hit him with a whiskey bottle.
Right.
A lot of people think that's a continuity error. I don't think it is. Jacques doesn't really see
That's
him.
one of the continuity errors that I actually like, because how would they know?
Yeah.
Who did it?
And I don't think it is one. I think Jacques is so drugged out.
Right.
And there's the deleted bit that's in the script where Jacques and Leo fight, where Jacques punches Leo.
Right.
And that was in the script, and I believe it was probably shot. And so when Jacques goes outside and passes out, and he gets hit by a whiskey bottle, and he wakes up and realizes that, who else is he going to think did it but Leo?
Right.
But so why didn't Leland/Bob just knock out Ronette too and take Laura to the train car? And here's the reason I think. So Bob wanted to possess Laura, right?
Right.
So I think Ronette Pulaski was there to be Laura's first victim.
Ooh.
And I think that's why she was brought along.
Ooh, hot take.
That's why there was the whole ritual with the fire walk me written in blood, all this stuff. I think that basically he was going to possess Laura. And all the bits that were also in the script with Laura saying, you can't have me to Bob.
Right.
We know Bob was trying to possess her in the train car.
Uh-huh.
If she would have let Bob in,
right,
she would have killed Ronette as Bob. That would have been her first victim.
Holy Toledo.
And I also think Leland also would have died, and Laura probably would have gone there with Bob.
You think Bob would have ripped the ripcord out of Leland, killed him?
Yep. Ripped the ripcord out of Leland, inside Laura, killed Ronette through Laura.
Okay. That's the alternate timeline I want to see. Laura, possessed by Bob, running amok, killing everybody in town.
And then what happens is Laura comes back into town, right?
Right.
And she could come back and say, my father did this to me, you know what I mean? And my father killed Ronette, and then I killed him in self-defense. Laura could have done that.
Right.
And played the innocent.
Right.
Because she's now possessed by Bob. I think that's what Bob wanted to do. That's why Bob brought Ronette, because why else bring Ronette, right?
And then she could have gone to English class, sat in that desk,
Yep.
and turned around and killed James Hurley after he broke that pencil.
Yeah.
I love that theory, by the way. I never even thought about that.
This is a theory I've had for a while.
See, because I thought that Leland just took Ronette because no witnesses.
Yeah. Well, he left. He could have just knocked her out, or like he did Jock there, hit her with a whiskey bottle like he did Jock. I think he took her for the very specific purpose of that.
Okay, so how come Leland didn't? Why didn't Bob jump into Ronette at the hospital when he's trying to screw around with her IVs and stuff?
He can't jump into her if she doesn't let him in.
Yeah, but she's like, she's got to actually willingly let him.
Yeah, because you remember Leland said, Laura wouldn't let him in.
Right.
That's why Laura was eventually killed. She would not let Bob in.
It's kind of messed up that he puts out a mirror in front of Laura's face.
Yeah.
Makes her look at herself.
Because I think Laura, lets kind of, every once in a while she'll kind of give into it. Like the scene in The Missing Pieces of the Family, she gets the big grin. Well, she'll let herself get the feeling of Bob, and she'll kind of slightly start to let him in.
Right.
And then she stops it. Or in that case, Sarah Palmer calling her name.
And then when she's dealing with Harold and she's got the white face like Wyndham Earle.
Yeah.
Right? And
she's let Bob in temporarily.
Right. So
he's come up. And that's why in the diary, remember in episode 16, when the real Mrs. Tremont gives the diary page to Donna, and Donna reads it.
Right.
And Laura says on the last night, she says, February 23rd, tonight is the night that I die. I know I have to, because it's the only way to keep Bob away from me, the only way to tear him out from inside.
So he's already kind of inside.
He's kind of got in a little bit as he breaks her down, and as she does more, as the dark side of Laura takes over,
right.
Bob gains more ground inside of her.
So this connects to Blue Velvet with Dorothy Valens when she says, he put his disease in me.
In a way, yes. And I think it also connects to Blue Velvet in that, in a way, Frank Booth is a doppelganger of Jeffrey Beaumont. And when he says, you're like me, and when Jeffrey hits, and Jeffrey's terrified of the fact that he has that in him. When he hits Dorothy, he's become Frank for that moment.
Right.
And so really, and I think David Lynch a lot of times is more interested in the enemy within than he is in the enemy without. And that's why so many of his movies have doppelgangers and, somebody's own internal phobias or fears or darkness taking them over.
Right.
If you look at people in David Lynch films, they're constantly struggling with doppelgangers or representations of the darkness within themselves.
All right, so I have a fire walk with me theory, and then we'll wrap this up.
Okay.
Okay. So for a long time, an error, or at least seemingly an error, for both you and me,
yes,
is towards the end when supposedly James Hurley calls Laura in her bedroom. Phone rings once, like Sarah says. Laura answers it, James, no, I do love you. And, but we know in the series, from episode 16, Tim Hunter's episode, that Leland made the call to Laura from Ben Horn's office.
Correct. And in The Missing Pieces, we also hear that Leland is staying late at Ben Horn's to help with the Norwegians.
Okay, so in the theatrical cut of Fire Walk with Me, Laura goes out of her house, and Leland is seemingly at home.
Right.
He's been at home.
Because the other scenes were cut, yeah.
But if you watch the Missing Pieces, or what would have been the original cut of it, she comes out of the house, and then Leland comes home.
Yeah.
To suggest the fact that he was at Ben Horn's. Right? So my theory is that while the show says it was Leland calling from Ben Horn's office,
yes,
but the movie seems to imply it was James. However, my belief is it's not James, that she's actually talking to her dad, and I'll tell you why. We never hear James Marshall's voice. We never get a cutaway to James Marshall. So Laura is so drugged out, so in her own place, that she thinks she's already made the date with James, because the diary entry said, I'm nervous about meeting Jay tonight.
Exactly.
So
she's already, she wouldn't be making plans then, yeah.
She's already made the plans with James. She doesn't need to make the plans with him on the phone. So I think her dad calls, and she's like, James, oh yeah, I do love you. But it's her dad. And that is why her dad is acting all weird on the walkway.
Yes.
He's feeling something out.
Yeah, because he would have heard all that. I like that theory a lot, because that continuity always bothered me, and that makes it not an error.
Right, yeah, and that also
it.
explains why he looks really mad when he sees her leaving with James on the bike.
Exactly. Yeah, I like it.
Makes sense to me.
Now we need to see that shot of the Doc Hayward's Wilted Red Rose on the side of Sparkwood in 21.
My God. Don't tempt my tummy with the taste of nuts and honey. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody,
Yes.
for watching. Really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun this past weekend. We are going to do this again. We may be doing it recorded, but Josh, I will be seeing you again in person sooner than later.
It's not like Missoula's at the far end of the world or anything.
No, I actually live just about 6 hours north of you. So
It's like going from Missoula to Twin Peaks, right?
there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Just please don't kill me in your living room tonight. All right.
worry.
And,
Don't worry.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I really
Okay.
appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, be sure to follow us on Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, you name it. Email us anytime at obnoxious@anonymous@hotmail.com. You guys are awesome. Thank you for your lovely comments
Yes,
on
thank you
yesterday's
very
video. Hopefully tonight was just as much fun.
And I didn't give the answer to the question that I asked.
Oh, go ahead.
The
Season. Okay, let me try.
Okay.
Season 3. It's Laura.
Yep. We hear Sarah Palmer's voice call Laura after Cooper says, "What year is this?"
From Fire Walk With Me, it's Judy.
Yep. The monkey says Judy. Last word.
But it's not in the script.
Nope.
But the monkey says Judy. Season 2, it's Annie.
Yep.
Now, Season 1 is where I messed up. Because he said it was a tricky thing. So I kept thinking, it's got to be Agent Cooper. It's got to be Agent Cooper. And then I thought, no. It's got to be Andy saying, it's Leo Johnson. So I said, Leo Johnson? He said, no, it is Agent Cooper.
Yes. But the reason I said it's kind of the second word is Andy says, "Agent Cooper, we found Leo Johnson. He's been shot. Agent Cooper. Agent." And then the gunshot happens. So technically the last word is agent, but it's the title, Agent Cooper. So it is still kind of his name. And Cooper is the second to last word we hear. So an Agent Cooper, like Major Briggs, it's a title, so it is part of his name. So, yes, that's why I said second to last word when I described it.
And Season 1 comes to an ending, and that is amazing.
Yeah.
I think Season 1 is incredible.
Of course, sure
So.
is.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We will
Thanks.
see you soon. Have a great night. Let me lean over and hopefully don't pass out from the leg cramp. All right, guys.